Have you ever been on like the Money Smart calculator about compound interest? Have you ever done like gone on there and say like if I have this much money and I invest this much per month and it comes back at 7%, where does it end up in 10 years?
Yeah, so I'll answer that with a quick story. I did it once upon when I started my software companies, and then I blocked the website so I could never go and see it again.
Probably wise. Yeah, but don't you see, like you get sold these narratives of like, oh, it's a terrible, trading your time for money is terrible, Grant. Don't do that. You got to focus on leverage and software. Like that's where everyone winning. That is not my experience. I think that people slay the sacred cows. So they come in and tell you that consulting is a terrible business model because you're trading your time for money and you need to focus on things that are leveraging if you want to get to being wealthy. And I'm not against creating better business models. I just think they're missing the idea of like you can take this time for money thing and turn it into something that compounds and has leverage, which I think is there. So I'll take you through this moment. I'm sitting on this Money Smart calculator. I'm going through, okay, well, if I've got this much money and I can invest this much a month and I can get a 7% return, where does it get to, right? And then I go, what would happen if I could get 10% returns? And I crank it up and then I start thinking about the risk I have to take to start increasing the returns, right? So you have to become a better investor and potentially take on more risk to do that. So for example, and I'm not at all suggesting people do that, if the average return on an index fund is 7%, that's like the easiest way to get you 7%. If you want to get 10%, well, now you got to start picking individual stocks that outperform that way harder. I'm looking at that and going, well, what if instead of trying to get outsized returns on investing, I just put more money in? So rather than, let's in this example saying I invest $10,000 a month, what if I invest 15?
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there and I'm going, wow, the money you put in makes a bigger difference than the returns you get. And I'm sitting there as a business owner, I'm going, I actually think it would be easier for me to generate more money in business, even if it is trading time for money, or through these leveraged outcomes, and invest more than it would be for me to create crazier returns. So that was like my number one epiphany of going, well, if I focus too much on leverage and my profit gets too small, it's going to slow down my investing too much, where it's going to take too long for that flywheel effect to come on.
Yeah.
So there's a different game to be thought about here in the context of achieving like financial independence, right? If you're going to go after that goal, you've got to really reconsider it. So that was my epiphany moment, like on there about like the amount of profit you take from a business and compound matters a lot, really matters a lot. Obsession with leverage is not the only way. There's different ways to play this game. You don't win because you've got a high leverage business model. You can win with no leverage as long as the income is okay. Wouldn't recommend it, but still you get my point. All right, so second epiphany there. All right, so that's the first one. The second epiphany I had a few years back is when we keep two sets of books. We have our business books, which I'll call the active business books, and then I have my accommodation business, also known as my property investment portfolio. And it's when that business started making more than my active business.
Yep.
So when we had moved enough profit into the property portfolio, which you just got to think like in year one, it made not much at all. But after a few years of things compounding and a number of properties we have, now that compound effect over there is so strong, it makes more than my active business does at all. So when that happened, that was really impactful for me from the idea of going, well, it wouldn't matter if I had no leverage in my business now. Like I could literally trade all my time for money. As long as I keep pouring things on that, I win. Like that's the cheat code to winning at life now, because that has on this side of the equation. So when I think about my accommodation business, it has all the leverage and compounding baked into it.
Isn't it interesting? In the Facebook, the Full Stack Business Owner Facebook group, there was a conversation around a previous episode that we did on building a business for cash flow to sell, for impact and lifestyle. And there was a question that was propped up around like, what is the best approach and what is the best thing to do first? And it was really interesting seeing sort of all the business owners talk about their interpretation of how to play this strategy. And this was literally one of the points that triggered off this topic, because it's like, okay, well, have you thought about the cash flow into compounding assets? Have you ever thought about your business as the mechanism that is reliable and consistent that can just continue stoking that fire, where the game is profit extraction into a better vehicle. And the better vehicle is not a bigger business in most circumstances. Like I would argue
It totally can be.
It can-
I
you're
think the
right,
most
it can
challenging thing in this conversation we're having now is this is not a one size fits all. I think the most challenging thing is let's say there's a plumber out there right now. What's he going to do? Start writing books to get better leverage? Just focus on getting a bigger team? Like his best opportunity might be, no, go clean the drains. You're going to make great money doing drains. Select an investment vehicle and focus that on your strategy. Because over time, how you get better leverage is that you're going to be able to compound really well. Yeah. Now, for others that are in a business model that allows better leverage and a whole bunch of things, which I think internet marketers take for granted, that different story, right? So this is where it's like it's very individualized.
Hey, fellow business owner, if this topic and value-packed short video has resonated with you at all, and you want to dive deeper into being a full stack business owner, check out the full episode by clicking the link on your screen or in the description right now.